and welcome to yet another episode of the podcast Let's Talk Digital from the Digital Health and Rights Project Consortium. My name is James Kwashi, and I'm your proud host for this special episode with my special teammates from the Ghana Community Advisory Team. Today we'll be discussing the participation of youth in digital governance and what it really means. Are we, as youth, always intended to be the end users of technology, or will we ever be invited to sit at the table and make the decisions that help us improve these technologies? Today, with my able-bodied panelists, we'll be discussing the stories of Ghanaian youth as they attempt to be more involved and to take a more pivotal role in the governance of digital technologies. I'm honored to be seated next to my fellow GCAT members. What's up, team?
Hi.
So I'm joined from left to right, Fisher, Rachel, and Martin. You're all very welcome to this special episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Picture this, okay? Kwabena is a university student in Cape Coast, and he recently heard that the government is launching an app to help improve public services. He was really excited and was eager to find a faster way to, for example, renew his national ID. But when he downloaded the app, first thing he noticed were a couple of things, which is first that certain older models of phones are unable to run the app sufficiently, and also there was never an opportunity for him to contribute to the development of the app or to discuss how certain features would affect certain users. In a rural town near Ho, we also have the story of 22-year-old Ajo, who is leading a youth group that's passionate about community change. They have great ideas on how digital tools could improve waste management, local education, and even access to employment through job alerts. But no one from the local assembly has ever asked for their input or even told them that they can get involved in the decision making. So based on these two stories, we quickly segue into this discussion on what it means to have substantive youth representation at the table where policies and strategies regarding our digital life or the digitalization revolution are taken. Panelists, I'll start with Fisher, with your kind indulgence. Fisher, would you please share what youth representation means to you generally?
Generally, when I hear of youth participation, my understanding of participation is that participation should start from the very beginning to the end. But what we see most time is that normally issues are discussed, projects are developed, interventions are discussed, and then they introduce it to the youth or young adults that this is the conversation we're having about these issues or these technological innovations, and so we want you to participate. But then the conversation has already started with some people with the intention of developing a solution for some people. Why do you not bring all of us to the table from the beginning of the conversation, or even from the identification of the problem that the solution is intended for? And so when it comes to general participation and also youth participation, you realize that we keep talking about youth participation, but you realize that the major decisions that affect all these issues that we're talking about are being taken by adults, and then the youth or the young adults, we become the end users of these decisions that have already been taken. And so participation for me is not a fully participation as we ought to believe. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I bring the same question to you, Rahel. What does youth participation, particularly regarding governance, mean to you?
Okay, thank you very much, James. So for me, just like Fisher, youth participation means bringing every young person to the table. That is what it means to me. Most often than not, when we talk about youth participation, usually in in governance, the representation we find is, let's say 20 people, then they just have one young person there. That is what representation means to a lot of people, but that is not what it's supposed to be. And even that young person is from just one demographic. And as young people, we are very, very different. We are not the same person. One young person cannot represent all of young people. So for me, youth participation just means bringing different, young people from different demographics. Because I, for instance, I am limited to the extent by which I can speak for young people with disability.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can only talk about that from the eyes perspective. I don't know how it is like to live with a physical disability. So I will not be able to, if you are trying to do something that is supposed to benefit all young people, I cannot speak from that angle. It will be very limited. So you need to bring a young person that lives that kind of reality, that wakes up every day and have to deal with that to be able to say, so it is XYZ solution that will work for me.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's a matter of quantity and also quality.
Yeah, it's quantity and quality as well. It's not just bringing one person. And even most often than not, when that even happens, they just bring that one young person into the room and your job will be to be taking notes.
Or pictures.
Yeah, or pictures.
Or,
Or trying to, boot somebody's laptop for them and showing them how to use MS Word or something. Yeah, usually that is how it is. Like, oh yeah, you're a young person. Please come and do this for me. Come and do that for me. Nobody's actually even listening to you. And sometimes when you even try to make a contribution, they are like, oh, you're too young. And all of that. So youth participation is fully bringing young people, for me, of different demographics to the table.
Absolutely. It's an interesting paradox. You mentioned that a lot of our society generally regards young people as the ones that understand IT tools better, and yet when it comes to the decision-making table, there's not enough young people represented to inform the ways in which these strategies are implemented regarding digital tools.
Exactly. So, like, we are good enough to operate these tools, but we are not good enough to say to lead the creation of these tools. So that is what, yeah.
Absolutely. Let me come to Martins with my next question. Okay. This is a hypothetical. We, as youth, we often talk about being given the opportunity to sit at this table. But when we do sit at the table, once we are given that space, how do young people assert themselves in a way that they can contribute effectively to the decision making?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. So for me, I believe that for youth, for us to assert ourselves very well, one, we need to do more research. We need to talk to people who have taken the path. And also we need to come in with our little experience and also adapting other experience that people have already led a path. So it's not always about focusing on what people have done already or the experience that people have already, but also with our experience, because what a youth might see as wrong, someone who is older than might see as correct. Okay, but in a way that people would accept us, we need to embody all this kind of experience from others, from ours, and also learn, be ready to open our mind to learn in order to, make, wonderful and beautiful decisions. That's what I can say.
Absolutely, thank you. So I would say there's quite a number of barriers to youth actually getting to the table and then also contributing effectively to the conversations that drive these strategies around digitalization in the country. What are some of the barriers you would identify that are preventing youth from substantively participating in digital governance?
I think that one of the barriers is purposeful education or intentional education. I think that growing up through our school curriculums, you realize that young people are we are being taught how to use the applications or the digital tools, but you are not being taught how it is being manufactured or how it comes about. And so if we do not make strategic approach, or we do not approach this strategically about if we really want youth to participate fully in these decisions that will drive innovations towards digital tools, applications, and the technology itself. We need to make sure that our educational system or the information, the know-how that young people are getting also include how these tools are made and how these technologies come about. And so it is not only about learning how these technologies are being used, because we realize that when these technologies are developed, they are being developed by adults in a different demographic. And so when it is being applied in our demographic, sometimes we are using it, but does it meet the targeted need of the people that are using it or the beneficiaries? We realize that there is a gap there. And so when we are intentional about educational, purposeful education, and make sure that the form of education that young people get in terms of learning the digital tools also include having a typical know-how of how these technological tools come about, it will remove the barriers that comes about with the decision making on how these tools are even being implemented, or how these decisions are being implemented around.
So, Dina, I would say I agree as well that that is definitely one way to clear one of the barriers. But let's take the story of Kwapena, for example, who, without, let's say, too much formal education or digital literacy, still has quite a bit of understanding of the ways in which ICT tools work, so that they're able to come up with ideas on how to improve the system. Right. So what happens when we have a case where the education has gone on, digital literacy has risen, but still when youth attempt to propose changes and ideas into the development of apps, especially regarding public service, there's still another barrier to getting them into the room and at the table. What do we do then?
I think that I do not remember who said that, but then the person said if they do not, invite you to the table,
Make your own.
you make your own table.
Yes, I
Yeah,
love that.
like you take your own chair and then you take your own table into the room, and then you sit down and then you create something for you and your people. And I think that that is what a lot of young people are attempting to do these days, because of age restrictions, bureaucracies, and all of that. They are not, inviting a lot of young people to the table. But what other young people have resorted to doing is that, finding a way into the room. Case in point, we can think about in just the last election, we saw like a leap in the number of young people representation in parliament. Because these are young people that were so tired of, not being consulted, not being asked into the room, and they decided that, we need to get into the door somehow and then be able to make these decisions for us. And we can already see changes with the way they are going about everything. You see how I have never really seen, our members of parliament being very vocal on social media, trying to connect with, the average voter and all of that after elections. We only see them doing that when it is, campaign season, then they are trying to get in touch with the different demographics of young people. But after campaign season, they are done. But these young men and women that have gone to parliament in the last election, you can see how, there is just a different way they're approaching everything. Case in point, Malik.
Yes, yes.
Malik, there was something that was happening, and someone called Malik's attention. I think that was Manasseh Azuri. And you know what he did? He came on live and asked people to, suggest ways by which they can approach this. That is how you know a young person is in power, because this is like a typical young person behavior. An older person is feeling like, first of all, you can talk to me like that. First of all, you have not been in my shoes before. You don't get to tell me that I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that. You are not seasoned. You don't. Where's your experience? We fought for what, and you were not there. And all of that. But these young people that are in positions are not looking at that. They are trying to carry, every young person along. So what I just mean to say is that if they are not giving us the opportunity, we need to find a way to create our own table. Because at some point, whether they like it or not, they would recognize what we are trying to do, and some may get behind us so that we can all solve the issues that involve young people. So maybe it's hard. It's really, really hard. I can understand. There's a lot of frustration. It takes a lot of guts to be able to say, you know what, I'm building my own table, because it's difficult. You want to build your own table. The people that own the wood say they won't give you.
Exactly.
You want to build your own table. It's older people that are not open to collaboration, that are at the helm of affairs. They will not give you nails. So all of these things can make it hard. But if we persevere, somehow we'll be able to, get in there and then, bring up solutions that will help the average, Ghanaian young person. So yeah, there are challenges. It's huge challenges. But I think what we need to do is find a way to invite ourselves into the rooms, find a way to build the tables and all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I would want to contribute to that as well. One of the ways that we can also push young people on this direction is that social media influencers can use this social media platform to advocate for policy change that allow young people to be part of technological policies, that there should be consultation, collaboration with government agencies and government bodies and authorities to form consultations that involve young people in terms of making digital decisions. Because the adults understand that these tools, the young people know how to use these tools. And so at what point are young people not invited on the table when the decisions as to how technological policies are made are not being invited to the table? And so we should find a way, like using the same platform to advocate for policy change. And I think that if we are able to drive a campaign that is asking the leaders or the older generation to involve us in things that we are the end users. And when we talk about even being end users, we are not only it's not only about benefiting from it. It also comes with a backlash. And so if we face the negativity or the negative repercussions of this same digital tools, why are we not part of the decision making in how these digital infrastructures are being developed? And so it is a very a good way that we can use the same platform to campaign or advocate for a policy change in technological decisions in the country.
Absolutely. And I would say I quite agree with you. And that brings me to my next question about the rise of digital youth or youth councils in other countries. So we finding that it's a common phenomenon in Europe where governments are creating small councils of youth representation where they're engaging them substantively and gaining their direct participatory inputs into various legislation. How do we envision something of that nature being created here in Ghana or here within Aberdeen? I'm gonna come to you first because I think you have the answers
So
to this one.
I'm not even trying to be a pessimist, right?
Ah,
But then I know how such things play out in this country. Mind you, we have a different definition of youth. The Ghanaian context is different from the UN context. So the UN, we are looking at, is it 10 to 24? Sorry, no, that is a young person. We are looking at from the teens to 24 in the UN context, but the Ghana context, we are looking at 15 to 35 or so. I am not too sure.
35.
35. But then all of the times that they brought positions or created councils that say that, oh, this is for young people, you go in there and you find out that these are people that are older. Because this is Ghana, someone is 40 and the person says, I'm young. I mean, technically,
at heart.
I did not say that. Technically, you are young at 40, but then there are certain positions that you cannot fit inside anymore. There are certain places, things that you cannot advise on anymore. But unfortunately, when we start councils like this or open up positions like this, nobody is really, checking to see that, oh, the criteria is being met. And I think that the problem with that is that we politicize every single thing in this country. So you say a youth council, a government comes into power and then appoints people that feels like, oh, if these are my people, so if they are on this council, they will advise on things that go for the political party that I belong to. So that is also another issue. I would have been very, very happy for us to have a youth council, but I am afraid about how we are going to approach it. If we do not politicize it and we ensure that it is young people, when we say young people, like young people.
So we're talking under 24.
I'm not even talking under 24. We can have the young people in the Ghanaian context. So let's say open it up from 18 to 35.
Okay.
Put 18 to 35 people on that particular council, because that is our context. That is what we are using. Put people like that there and make sure that it is devoid of politics. I think that would work, but I am not too sure where we are now, because even issues that affect all of us. I remember the Galamsey issue. People were trying to politicize it.
Yes, and youth led very strongly.
Youth led very strongly, but people were trying to politicize it. And I'm afraid that I'm beginning to actually think that it may be true. There were people that were probably neutral, that, took part in the protest and all of that. But there is a change in government. The Galamsey issue has not gone away. It's still there. I am still not hearing all of those voices. I am still not hearing the unity that led the other protest in this particular one. And it's very worrying. It's very, very worrying. So I feel like it may work.
But then again, from past experience,
Exactly.
we can't bank on it.
I'm not too sure. And this is not even me trying to be a pessimist, but yeah. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how that would work, but then it has to start from somewhere.
Absolutely.
So I think that it's a much needed intervention, a much needed intervention, so that young people can advertise on stuff like that. But then also another thing that I'm also afraid of is this country. We have a thing of ageism. You can have young people from 18 to 35 in a room. But then the ones who are 35 are, sort of looking down on the ones that are 18, 19, 20, 21. They are like, oh, you were a child and all of that. And that's also another problem. I mean, we are all young people by the Ghanaian context. But then also you put all of these people inside a room, different age ranges, and people want to pull a seniority card.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm older than you, what do you know?
In secondary school.
I'm older than you, what do you know, and all of that. So I think that is also another reason why we are not really able to come together to do a lot of things, because I don't know why people are so obsessed with whether they are older or,
or younger.
They are younger. And we will all die, but...
Eventually,
but we are here. Like, let's just do something,
And do it together across generations for our benefits.
Because people fought and we are here. People ensured that things were done and we are here. So if we need to, if we can be able to achieve any success at all and leave something behind for the people that will come after us, then we need to work together. Yeah.
Thank you, and I love that statement you ended with thinking about the next generation of young people to come. Martin, let me come to you with the next question. So as we are discussing ways in which we can have quality youth representation and participation in the development of certain tools, let's take hypothetically the incoming Ejumera program by the Youth Employment Agency.
Okay.
Right? I'm assuming that they are likely to create an app to bring employees and employers, potential employees and employers together. What would a process where they are able to engage or they're able to use market research to gain the feedback of youth on the user design of the app before launching it? What would government have to do in order to be able to capture some end user feedback from young people in particular for such an app for improving youth employment in the country?
Okay, so for me, I would think of accessibility. Okay, so there should be a way that it doesn't matter the kind of phone that I'm using, okay, to be able to access an app to either search for job or maybe market my product as a young person. Because we come to realize that there are some people living in a rural area. It's either they don't have access to strong internet connectivity, or either they are facing issues with their mobile phones here and there. And we need to balance issues when it comes to creating up those apps, especially with the government and other agencies that are working on it. They need to balance a way of making internet connection very flexible for young people in order for them to get access to internet and also to use their phone, either being it a very high Android phone or iOS or whatever, or has a very low one. It should be used at any time in any day, regardless of wherever that you are. And also with the issue of considering of having a backlog of people not being able to report issues. Okay, let's just say you're setting an app. I should be able to log out my issues.
In real
I
time,
should, yes, I should be able to put out my suggestion. I should be able to send in problems and things that I want to be changed about the app or whatever we are talking about. So this issue need to be taken into consideration, and also the government, as I keep mentioning, the government and other agencies, not just the government alone. We have other agencies also working hand in hand with the government. They need to take into consideration of how and ways to go about this thing so that people would be able to access in terms of job and other stuff.
Thank you very much. Shall let me come to you very quickly on that note. Would an app, given the geographic divide we now know of in terms of access to the internet and internet penetration across the country, and also the gender divide, would an app for such a public service be the most digitally sound initiative that the government could embark on to improve youth employment?
Yeah, I think it can, but it will depend. I think we know that Ghana is doing very well in terms of accessing digital tools because there is a wide coverage of internet access, even though the cost of the internet itself is expensive, but there is the coverage in most places. And so I believe it can reach a lot of places and people can access it. But the details is what does the interface of that application look like? First of all, what is the safety and security data protection component of that app? What if I think that the government want to collect my data and use it against me? And so because of that, I won't, if I don't know the safety and security or data protection policies around it and how it is, that is embedded in the application, I won't use it. If the interface of the application is very difficult for people using less complex or less sophisticated phones to be able to use it. Some people cannot access it. And so it will depend on a lot of things. Also, even accountability measure. If I use the app and something happens to my data or my data is used for something, is there any mechanism in the system or in the community that I can lodge my complaints or I can report and get feedback and make sure that all of these issues are addressed? If all of these things exist, then I could say that looking at our coverage, it will be useful. But if all of these things do not exist, then it won't serve the purpose that it is supposed to serve. It will rather cause harm to some other individual who will be caught in between the lines. But also, most apps that we see, that we used, are not locally designed. Even if they are locally designed, the people that are giving the contract just pick up a template, because they pick a template that has been designed, because mostly they don't own the hosting platform of all of these information. So if you look at the African continent itself, we talk about digitalization, but the digital tools are not the continent based. They are all still European, Chinese, elsewhere. And so until we get to a place that the tools, the infrastructures are localized, that is the only time we can get the real benefit of these tools. And so if my local government wants to roll out an employment program and they want to use it through these tools app, it is a good idea, but at the end of it, is it going to serve the purpose that they want it to serve? Normally, that is the question. It is so beautiful to see them, launch a big project, and then they launch the app, and then they do the unveiling, and then pictures are taken, celebrities mount their heels and their bone straight, and they take all the pictures. But then within 2 months...
What do you have against our heels?
Oh,
Within
you're a
two-
celebrity. I'm gonna have to have you sign something for me just before we leave here.
Within 2 months, you realize that the app is nowhere to be found. And also, even a lot of people do not know about the app. They went to the app and their phone couldn't sign in, or the app vanished from their phone because there was a problem with
So
the
they had to
app,
take
and
it
the
off.
app didn't, and they had to take it off, and then it never came back online. Meanwhile, they've signed contract of millions of cedis,
Money is
and
paid,
money is paid, and it cannot be retrieved. The app just went somewhere, and so these are the challenges that exist in there. But it can be a good thing
You can.
to use the tools if because the tools are available. Yeah.
Okay. Martin, would you like to
Yeah,
chip
so
in?
I wanted to add one to what Fisher mentioned about. And also with the localizing, I think language is also a big barrier as well, because I mean, we live in a country and we can testify that not everyone speaks good English or speaks, English too as well. So when you go to China or when you go to other parts of the world, they are so proud. Even in Germany, I heard you need to learn the language.
You do,
Yeah. So I think these issues they need to tackle this issue in a way that they should be able to inculcate different kinds of languages, like the tree, like the guns, and like the airway into these apps when it's being, design in order to make life very easier for the very local Ghanaian who lives somewhere in somewhere far away in the northern region, who hasn't been to the classroom, but also good in reading in their local language. Like the mosques, for instance, people read the Hausa. Sometimes they might not even step into any classroom or any English classroom, but they are very good because they go to the Makaranta. So I think inculcating the language thing will help a lot in designing this kind of app.
The barrier with inculcating the local languages and all of that is also we have a local context issue, which is the fact that
The diversity of
the
languages and
diversity
also
of the
reading,
languages
yeah.
in our society, and even before you will be able to read a text in our local language, because the alphabet have been contextualized in English. For you to read tree, you need to pronounce the word, know how to pronounce those words in English before you be able to know how to pronounce them in Twi. And so you need to understand English to be able to put it there. That is the society context, but also the tools. Those developing the tools, is it that easy for them to use the innovative technologies like AI to inculcate into this system to be able to develop a system that can use prompt in and voice note to be able to, because these technological infrastructures are not developed with the local intentions. Normally it's a template that they pick and inform the development of it. And so until we begin to talk about the infrastructures being localized, the developing of the system being localized, we will always pick the template and it will be very difficult for you to localize it.
Okay. And it brings to mind, from a previous episode, we discussed the loss of third spaces and the lack of community ICT centers. I think that's definitely one way to get people more involved in what ICT could do for us and why it's important to contextualize it to the community and to the country that it's being implemented for. Okay. That brings me to my next question. Let me pass this one right next to Rahel. So we've spoken quite a bit about challenges this evening, but can you give me, from your experience, any one success story where youth have actively made their own table by demanding to be represented within digital governance spaces, and how that went?
The fact that I'm thinking right now shows that there aren't a lot of
That
success
not-
stories.
yeah, it's not common occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, it's uncommon in our part of the world, but it's not uncommon out there.
Okay.
Like, for young people to demand a seat at the table or make their own table. But here it is a bit uncommon. That's why I cited an example with the youth population that is in parliament from the last elections. And I think that's is something that is very commendable. The way they brought accessibility. I mean, I am not one that is very fond of politicians.
No, but
Because for me, I think that they are all the same. They just have different party colors and all of that. Because you see the same pattern with each government that comes in. But if there's one thing that I like about the new crop of young politicians, it is the accessibility they are creating. They're carrying the voters along, the accountability that they are doing. So I'm doing this, I am doing that. In the early days of the new government in office, I remember that they said the regional minister for Ashanti region went to the office early and was like, then signed in and said, anybody else that comes after me should come and see me. So that means that you're coming late. I'm not so sure about how true it is, but the way it was carried by mainstream media and everyone, I want to believe that it is true. I should have fact-checked it, but I did not. My bad. But if we are doing things like that, if we are, holding ourselves accountable when we come into office as young people, this should make the ones that come after us, this should make the path like quite easy for them, because they are carrying everybody along, holding themselves accountable, doing this accessibility thing. Then I think that this should also help to give a lot of more young people the opportunity. Other electorates would be like, okay, fine, this young person went and he's doing amazing, so we can also, let another young person go. So I think that that is how we can create our tables. I do not really recall, I cannot recall any ready examples of how young people have created their tables in our part of the world. But I know in other places they do. But
Absolutely,
here
yeah.
it's starting from the political angle, and would I wish that it wasn't coming from the political angle? Absolutely. but
However,
however,
the
it's
reality
happening.
is,
So
yeah.
that's, I would say, it's just like a step in the right direction. That young people are, bringing virtues, about accountability and all of that. And we cannot say the same about our older folks in politics.
True, and I'm inclined to agree as well, but I'd take it a step further and say, beyond having to rely on the personalities of this particular crop of young people, it would be more effective to have structures that enforce that accountability.
Exactly.
And
I
hopefully these people
totally agree on the
can
structure
do that
bit.
as well.
So even for the older people, I think that it is the lack of, structures that hold these people accountable is why they're able to get away with a lot of
So
things.
coupled with their
Coupled
their
with how
idiosyncrasies, but,
coupled with how we give reverence to older people and how older people can do no wrong. I remember when I was a kid, one time my father said something, I was like, nah, you're lying. And then my dad was
You
like,
did
we don't
not.
tell an adult you're lying.
Yes,
You
this-
say you are
that's
deceiving
standard.
me. And my dad is a fancy man. So so he says, oh, you don't tell an adult you're lying. You say you are deceiving me. And I'm like, oh, okay. But it didn't sit right with me. I was like, this man just lied to me. But why am I not allowed to say that
You're being
you are
gaslit
lying?
into
I'm telling you, you're lying
using
to me and you're
different terminology as
gaslighting
well.
me. Yeah, so all of that makes older people get away with a lot of things. So that is one thing that I would say. The structures, the age, and all of that is part of the reasons why we don't have a lot of young people in the door. And I think another thing too is that you see how we give grace to people that are older.
Yeah, as culturally expected.
Yeah, as culturally expected, but we do not give grace to younger people.
Yeah, you get the rod.
Yeah, we don't give grace to younger people in our parts of the world at all. So let's say a young person gets into governance and they embezzle money. Oh, na say, remember one idea. Chrono say, that kind of thing. And then it has, a trickling effect. It affects the other young people. Oh, the last time we gave this young person a chance, he did this. But we've had older people in position for generations that have done far worse things. But by virtue of their age, they are able to get away with it because they will say, oh, it doesn't matter. They have the experience. You too, wabobra, that kind of thing, wabobra. If you are able to get there, you would understand. But we don't give the young people the same grace. So we don't even allow young people to make mistakes and then correct those mistakes. You do it once and they're like, oh, we said it. Like, you are easily written off, but it's not the same. So we keep having older people in positions because people assume that, oh, as an older person, they would do better.
They have more experience.
They have more experience. But then what we don't get is that we've allowed them, we've given them grace. So even if they are doing better, we've given them grace to be able to clean up their acts as they go. But we don't have the same thing for young people. So I think that is something that we should really, really look at, how we easily, discredit or discard young people's contribution and opinions because we feel like, oh, it's just youthful exuberance. Yeah.
And that's usually what
it's that's what they say. They say, oh, it's youthful exuberance and all of that. So, yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much for that response. It seems ageism is a very major barrier when it comes to youth participation in governance on a substantive level, but even on a representative level. So let's try and tackle that very briefly as we wrap up. Martins, could you please share what you think youth can do to tackle ageism from adults in all the spheres of statehood that we have in this country? A big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. So I'm thinking about we tackling in a way that we should find a very strategic way of tackling that, because a lot of young people, I mean, even at the age of a very young age growing up, are always being forced to do things that are not, I mean, of their own right, of their own
volition,
will or something like that. So we need, in order for you to just go the way you want to go, I think you need to do it slowly. You don't need to start all over with just, I mean, trying to do something big or something like that. Sometimes older people need us to do something to prove to them that, okay, he or she is capable of or deserve to be a table. So I think we can start from a corner. Okay, then gradually we will try to penetrate to other CSOs or other private organizations. Then we hit the government table.
Eventually.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I also want to add is that, so when we are having conversations like this, it looks like it is, younger people versus older people. I am an adult in my late 20s, and I say one thing all of the time: if I experience a minor inconvenience, I run to my mother. I do not live with her, but if I experience a minor inconvenience, I run to her. What I'm trying to say is that we are not looking for a situation whereby you're like, okay, so you're an older person, like just step aside and then let these young people take over. What we are looking for is collaboration.
Absolutely.
Because whether we like it or yes, experience is important.
And of course,
Yeah,
new perspective.
New perspective as well. Experience is very, very important. So what we want as young people is to be able to collaborate with the older people. Like, I think that most often than not, how they see it is that, okay, that is you trying to take over. But that is not it at all. We just want to be in the same space. We just want to work together so that we can come up with a solutions that works for me and works for you as well.
And it's inclusive.
And it's inclusive,
and
respectful of
everyone's
everyone. Exactly. That's what we are looking for. We are not looking for, older people to step aside and then we will just, take over. That is not it at all. And I wanted to reiterate that so that it does not come across like that, because we are always going to need the older people. They've lived their life, so they can be able to tell us what did not work 10 years ago or 50 years ago or 40 years ago when you were not there. So that when you are creating solutions for this generation, you know that 40 years ago generation, they are still alive.
Yeah.
So how would they want to be included? So it's very, very important that we make that very, very clear, that it's more of a collaboration that young people are looking for. A chance, a seat at a table to say, this is what will work for me, what will work for you too. Then we now put the two together, and then we have a solution that works for everybody.
Absolutely. And I think much of the problem is that these categories of development are still treated in strict isolation, as if you're a youth, and then one day you wake up as an adult and lose the memory of everything it meant to be a young person at that point. Or when you become an even older person, you lose, the experiences you've had from before. If we can think of this process of growing up as a fluid process where we're constantly becoming, I think we can help bridge some of that intergenerational gap. Fisher, let me hear from you quickly, and then we'll call it a day soon.
Yeah, on the challenges on ageism that young people face, I would like to say that young people should be bold to take up their positions. In our part of the society, you realize that growing up, a lot of people, I didn't come from that background, honestly. A lot of people come from the background that growing up, they are told not to have an opinion. Once you have an opinion, you are labeled, you are a witch, you are inquisitive.
You are difficult.
You are difficult. You are this, you are that, and sometimes you are beaten and you are not even liked for it. People are more inclined to like a child that is very quiet, timid, and so a lot of people grow up with not having their own voice because that voice has been taken from you. And so it adds up to the fact that in most spaces, young people or young adults do not find their voice until they are older. Then when they are accorded the privileges of an adult, now they can have their voice. But what I would say is that young people should, those that have had the privilege to come from backgrounds that gave them voice or allow them to own their voice, should be able to believe in themselves and believe in whatever capacity and abilities that they possess, and be able to hold up to spaces that they deserve to be there. Because one thing I find out is that when there are a lot of people in a space, including young people, the adults dominate. It doesn't matter whether whatever we are talking about, the young people have better experience or have better understanding. We cannot say that every adult have every information at their fingertips. They are not Google or they are not AI. And so if a younger person have learned in an area, they can better give an opinion. But we live in a society that every adult is right and every young person is dumb. And so if you are a young person and you find yourself in this position and you do not know your strength and you do not know your voice because you haven't found it, you will be lost. And so young people should try and find themselves, and hold on to their voice so that they would hold spaces, and then collectively our voice will be heard.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think that's all the time we have for today's episode, but I want to say a very special thank you to you three for this very illuminating conversation. I think as young people take charge of civic spaces, as we saw from the last election, we're going to see more developmental change being led by the youth, with the youth in mind, and in protection of the rights of young people that have for a long time been lost. So thank you again for your insights.
Thank you.
And we will talk more later. This has been the amazing episode of the Let's Talk Digital podcast with my GCAT members. Be sure to join us on the next one and keep it locked in.